At the center of modern pop history stands the Swedish group ABBA, a band whose music, visual identity, and emotional storytelling reshaped global popular culture. Their journey is inseparable from the creative force of Benny Andersson, whose melodies helped define an era where pop music became both deeply personal and universally accessible. Alongside him, Björn Ulvaeus, Agnetha Fältskog, and Anni Frid Lyngstad formed a group whose sound transcended language barriers. This is not simply a story about chart success or glittering costumes. It is a narrative about artistic chemistry, personal entanglement, and creative persistence. From humble beginnings in Sweden to global superstardom, ABBA's evolution reflects how music can outlive the circumstances of its creation and continue resonating across generations, decades after the group stopped performing regularly together. Early life and the musical roots of Benny Andersson. Benny Andersson was born in Stockholm in 1946 and grew up in an environment where music was part of everyday life. His father and grandfather introduced him early to the accordion, an instrument that would shape his understanding of melody and harmony. As he matured, he expanded his musical vocabulary by teaching himself piano and immersing himself in a wide range of influences, from traditional Swedish folk music to the rising energy of rock and roll icons like Elvis Presley. Leaving formal education at a young age, Andersson pursued music full-time, driven by a natural instinct for composition and arrangement. Even before global fame, he displayed a rare ability to craft melodies that felt both emotionally immediate and structurally sophisticated. These formative years laid the foundation for his later work, where simplicity and complexity would blend seamlessly, becoming one of the defining traits of ABBA's enduring sound. From the Hepstars to a fateful creative partnership before ABBA, Benny Andersson gained national attention as a member of the Hepstars, one of Sweden's most popular pop groups in the 1960s. It was during this period that his talent for songwriting began to distinguish him from his peers. A pivotal moment came in 1966 when he met Björn Ulvaeus, beginning a songwriting partnership that would ultimately change pop music history. Their collaboration combined Andersson's melodic instincts with Ulvaeus's lyrical precision, producing songs that were both catchy and emotionally layered. Meanwhile, Ulvaeus had connections to Agnetha Fältskog, and Andersson later met Anni Frid Lyngstad, creating a network of personal and professional relationships. These early intersections of talent and romance set the stage for a group dynamic that would become both the source of their greatest strength and their most complex challenge: the formation of ABBA and the road through early struggles. The transition from separate musical careers to the formation of ABBA was neither immediate nor effortless. In the early 1970s, the four artists experimented with different collaborations and group identities, gradually discovering a unified sound. The combination of male and female vocal harmonies created a distinctive texture that set them apart from other pop acts of the time. Early attempts at international recognition were met with mixed results, and even their group name went through variations before becoming ABBA. Despite these challenges, the chemistry between Benny Andersson, Björn Ulvaeus, Agnetha Fältskog, and Anni Frid Lyngstad steadily grew stronger. Their rehearsals and early recordings revealed a group capable of balancing commercial appeal with artistic ambition. What emerged was a carefully crafted identity built on harmony, storytelling, and a keen sense of pop craftsmanship that would soon find global recognition. Eurovision triumph and the breakthrough moment with Waterloo. The defining breakthrough for ABBA came in 1974 when they won the Eurovision Song Contest with Waterloo. The song showcased the group's ability to combine theatrical energy with irresistible pop melody, instantly capturing the attention of audiences across Europe and beyond. Behind the performance stood the songwriting brilliance of Benny Andersson and Björn Ulvaeus, paired with the dynamic vocal delivery of Agnetha Fältskog and Anni Frid Lyngstad. Winning Eurovision was more than a competition victory, it was a gateway to international fame. Suddenly, ABBA was no longer a regional Scandinavian act, but a global pop phenomenon in the making. The success of Waterloo opened doors to recording contracts, international tours, and a growing fan base that would soon span continents, setting the stage for one of the most successful careers in pop history: global stardom and the era of iconic hits. Following their Eurovision success, ABBA entered a period of extraordinary global popularity. The group released a string of hit songs that defined the sound of the 1970s and early 1980s. Tracks such as Dancing Queen, Mamma Mia, Fernando, Knowing Me, Knowing You, and The Winner Takes It All became international standards. These songs, crafted primarily by Benny Andersson and Björn Ulvaeus, showcased remarkable emotional depth beneath their polished pop surfaces. The vocal performances of Agnetha Fältskog and Anni Frid Lyngstad gave the music its emotional resonance, blending clarity, vulnerability, and strength. ABBA's success was not limited to record sales. It extended into fashion, television appearances, and a carefully constructed visual identity that made them instantly recognizable worldwide. Personal relationships and the strain behind the spotlight. Behind the polished performances of ABBA lay deeply intertwined personal relationships that shaped both their music and internal dynamics. The marriages between Agnetha Fältskog and Björn Ulvaeus, and between Anni Frid Lyngstad and Benny Andersson, created a complex emotional landscape within the group. As fame intensified and touring schedules became more demanding, these relationships began to fracture. The emotional strain inevitably influenced both their personal lives and their artistic output. Rather than collapsing under the pressure, however, the group continued to produce music that often reflected their internal realities. Songs from this era carried themes of heartbreak, longing, and reflection, giving listeners insight into the emotional undercurrents behind their polished public image. The Visitors and a more reflective artistic direction. By 1981, ABBA released The Visitors, an album that marked a clear shift in tone and mood. The music became more introspective, exploring themes of isolation, change, and emotional distance. This evolution reflected the personal circumstances of the members, particularly the breakdown of their relationships. The songwriting partnership of Benny Andersson and Björn Ulvaeus reached new levels of sophistication, while the performances of Agnetha Fältskog and Anni Frid Lyngstad conveyed a deeper emotional complexity. Unlike their earlier work, this album did not rely solely on upbeat pop energy, but instead embraced a more mature, sometimes melancholic perspective. It signaled not just a musical evolution, but also the approaching end of the group's most active period: hiatus, separation, and individual creative paths. By the early 1980s, ABBA had effectively stepped back from active collaboration, although no formal announcement of breakup was ever made. Each member began pursuing separate creative directions. Benny Andersson and Björn Ulvaeus turned toward musical theater, developing projects such as Chess, which expanded their compositional ambitions beyond pop music. Meanwhile, Agnetha Fältskog and Anni Frid Lyngstad pursued solo careers, exploring different musical styles and personal artistic identities. Though their time as a group had slowed, the influence of their collaborative work continued to grow. Their catalog remained in circulation, gaining new audiences and gradually achieving a timeless status that extended far beyond its original era. Musical theater success and the reinvention of their songwriting. After stepping away from group performances, Benny Andersson and Björn Ulvaeus successfully transitioned into musical theater, most notably with Chess and later Mamma Mia. These works reintroduced ABBA's musical sensibilities to new generations in different formats. Meanwhile, the songs originally performed by ABBA experienced renewed popularity through stage adaptations and cover versions. The vocal legacies of Agnetha Fältskog and Anni Frid Lyngstad continued to define the emotional core of these compositions. This period demonstrated that ABBA's music was not confined to its original era but could be reshaped and reinterpreted across different artistic mediums. The transition from pop group to cultural institution had effectively begun. The craft behind the sound, studio innovation, and songwriting precision. One of the most defining aspects of ABBA was not only their emotional storytelling, but also their meticulous approach to studio production. The partnership between Benny Andersson and Björn Ulvaeus went far beyond traditional pop songwriting. They treated the recording studio as an instrument in itself. Layered harmonies, carefully constructed arrangements, and precise melodic structures became hallmarks of their sound. Each song was built with a strong melodic core, often refined repeatedly until it achieved emotional clarity and commercial appeal simultaneously. The vocal performances of Agnetha Fältskog and Anni Frid Lyngstad were recorded with extraordinary attention to tone, phrasing, and emotional delivery. This studio discipline helped create a polished but deeply human sound. Their recordings often balanced melancholy lyrics with bright, uplifting instrumentation, producing a contrast that became central to their identity. This precision in production ensured that their music remained timeless, continuing to sound fresh even as recording technology and musical trends evolved dramatically over the decades. from screen to stage, global revival through musicals and new audiences. The legacy of ABBA expanded far beyond their original recordings through film, theater, and global reinterpretations of their music. A major turning point came with the success of Mamma Mia, a stage musical built around the songwriting of Benny Andersson and Björn Ulvaeus, which introduced their songs to entirely new generations. The emotional versatility of tracks originally performed by Agnetha Fältskog and Anni Frid Lyngstad allowed them to be reinterpreted in narrative form, blending storytelling with music in a theatrical context. The later film adaptations further amplified this reach, transforming ABBA's catalog into a global cultural phenomenon once again. These reinterpretations demonstrated how their music could function outside its original era, adapting to new formats while retaining its emotional core. As audiences discovered ABBA through cinema and theater rather than radio and vinyl, the group's influence expanded across generations, cultures, and languages, reinforcing their position as one of the most adaptable and enduring acts in modern music history. Enduring cultural influence across generations. Over the decades, ABBA has remained a powerful cultural force. Their songs have continued to appear in films, stage productions, and global playlists, introducing their music to audiences who were not alive during their original peak. The songwriting of Benny Andersson and Björn Ulvaeus is frequently studied for its melodic precision and emotional clarity. At the same time, the performances of Agnetha Fältskog and Anni Frid Lyngstad continue to be celebrated for their distinctive vocal character. The group's influence extends across genres, inspiring artists in pop, electronic music, and theater. What began as a Swedish pop phenomenon has become a permanent fixture in global music history. ABBA Voyage and the return of a digital stage. In recent years, ABBA returned in an innovative form with the launch of ABBA Voyage in London, a digital concert experience featuring virtual performances based on their original appearances. The project brought together Benny Andersson, Björn Ulvaeus, Agnetha Fältskog, and Anni Frid Lyngstad in a technologically advanced celebration of their legacy. The show demonstrated how their music could be reimagined for a modern audience without losing its emotional core. Rather than a traditional reunion tour, it became a fusion of memory, innovation, and performance art. The project underscored the group's willingness to embrace new forms of expression while preserving the essence of what made their music enduring. Conclusion and the timeless nature of ABBA's legacy. The story of ABBA is ultimately one of artistic endurance. From the early creative development of Benny Andersson and Björn Ulvaeus to the vocal power of Agnetha Fältskog and Anni Frid Lyngstad, their collaboration produced music that continues to resonate across generations. Their journey included triumph, personal complexity, separation, reinvention, and eventual renewal through modern reinterpretation. What remains constant is the emotional reach of their songs, which continue to connect listeners across time and place. ABBA's legacy is not only preserved in records and performances, but also in the shared cultural memory of audiences worldwide, ensuring that their music remains a living, evolving presence rather than a closed chapter in pop history.